Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Ageless Sisters, your global source for beauty and anti-aging, with your host, Cynthia Rowland, creator of Facial Magic and Luscious Lips.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's Cynthia Rowland here, and I'm so happy to be on the air with a very special guest. And this wonderful woman has had such a terrific background in beauty that it just makes me so proud that I can introduce Joan Lasker to all of you, because she has been in the beauty business for such a long time, retired and came out of retirement, and now she has new products, and one of them is my favorite, and it's called TouchBack. So welcome, Joan. I want you to know that you save my life every single month.
Oh, that is fabulous. I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, welcome. Well, for those of our listeners who have never met you previously to today, they are in for a real treat because you have a true beauty background, because you were with Vogue for some amount of years, and then you were recruited over to L'Oreal, and then after a while you decided to retire and leave New York, and you did, right?
Right. It was, I had the best girl jobs. I mean, can you imagine having a career that was Vogue, L'Oreal, and now I own my own cosmetic company?
That is so cool.
It's just great.
Well, I want to talk to you about several things today. I mean, I have a list of things that we're going to talk about. But I want to talk about your vision that you had for yourself, because so many women get to a certain age, they put the word retire into the vocabulary, and then all of a sudden they're not as happy as they thought they would be. And I'm just curious about how in the world did you decide to leave the glitz of New York with everything at your fingertips, and where did you move?
Santa Fe. Unbelievable. It's it's quite a story, and was a little unusual because my entire family is in New York City, and my mother, who's still alive, is in New York City. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles, and my son is fifth generation Manhattan. And when I had dinner with them one night, and I said, my husband and I have decided to move to Santa Fe, and they just didn't even know where Santa Fe was.
Exactly. I'm sure they didn't.
But it's like, my God. And it was just sort of an extreme move, but we just felt like my husband was at the age of retirement and wanted to retire. I was not really there. This was sort of early retirement, but I had had a pretty intense career because I started working when I was 18 because I chose to work instead of going to college, and proceeded from there. So I had been just sort of working solid for 25 years already, and thought, okay, well, this will be a good adventure. Worst case scenario, we'll move back to New York. But we indeed, just sold everything, moved to Santa Fe. I live in a mud house in an adobe home, and I had never lived in a house before. I'd always been in an apartment, and it was just a fantastic move. And so it was a great decision. But you're right, I was sort of at the top of my career, having left being a vice president of corporate public relations of L'Oreal and simultaneously president of the Cosmetic Industry Trade Association, and just picked up and left and never looked back, and put on my cowboy boots and my blue jeans, and it's sort of a relief to let go of all your power suits and your high heels and all of that, and just made the move. So it was extreme, but in our case, it was just great, perfect.
That is so wonderful to hear. So you have no regrets looking back that you did this?
None. And I'm in New York all the time, but I'm so happy to just sort of spend 4 or 5 days and leave, and love just sort of flying into the Albuquerque airport and feel that that's home now.
Wow. And do you really wear cowboy boots, Joan?
I do indeed. As a matter of fact, that's what when I knew they were going to give me a present at L'Oreal when I left, and so I told the person who was arranging my goodbye party to make sure that she was going to get some alligator boots for me, and really ones that I would never buy for myself because they were way too expensive, and they did, and I wear them.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Well, I love going to New York. I'm at the beach in Southern California, and here at the beach, we never dress up. In fact, I stuck out like a sore thumb the first 2 years I lived here because I tried to make my Denver, Colorado, clothes work here, and it just doesn't work. You've got to wear, maricas and sandals all year round.
Well, Tom Ford lives around the corner from me because he grew up in Santa Fe, and he's quoted in the paper, every now and then. And one of my favorite is, he said, "I love coming to Santa Fe because it's a fashion-free zone." And it is. And it's such sort of a relief to not have to worry about the latest whatevers that are in fashion. Mm-hmm. So I have to say I do enjoy that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, let's talk about your product line, because I am not kidding when I say that TouchBack, your wide hair marker, has saved my life on many occasions, because sometimes I don't book a beauty appointment to get my roots refreshed as soon as I should, and truly, your products have just come to the forefront of keeping me sane, because you never know where my schedule is going to be and what I'm going to look like, and I'm sure millions of other women feel the same way.
Well, honestly, I created the product TouchBack because I needed it for myself. And I moved to Santa Fe, and I had, a little bit of gray, but it started to come in more heavily. And as a brunette, if you start coloring your hair to cover gray, your gray is visible literally in 7 days. You can start to see this sort of silver line come in, and within 2 weeks you really feel like you want to color your hair again, but you can't keep coloring your hair every other week or every 3 weeks. And because of certainly my almost 20 years at L'Oreal, I had a lot of contacts, and one of the key contacts was a superb hair color chemist who had recently retired. And I called him saying, can you create a formula with real hair color that's temporary, that washes out, that I could potentially get through a magic marker, have that formula come through a magic marker. And we worked on that literally for years, and indeed he got it, and several years later, working with a number of magic marker companies all around the world, we were able to produce the components that allowed the hair dye to come through. And what that did was, the products that were on the market to basically cover your gray roots between permanent colorings were literally crayons and mascaras. Mm-hmm. And they called them hair crayons and hair mascaras in a number of colors. But you put them on, and indeed they covered your gray roots, but the mascaras made your hair look sort of greasy. If you brushed it, it flaked off. So if you're wearing a white blouse, you had black dandruff instead of,
Ew.
It was like bizarre. And then the crayons were completely greasy. Nothing really matched your hair color. And those rubbed off on your pillow at night, and it just were a mess. And I said, I can't use these products for the next 40 years. There's got to be a better way, and I can't believe it's up to me to make, to find the better way. But indeed, I took the mission on, and I felt that I had retired and I had some time, and I started going back to work, and I did it out of my home, and all of a sudden it worked, and we got sales immediately and great distribution. And indeed, there's a huge, huge market for women coloring their hair to cover gray. And I think, as you said, one of the main things is to keep from using permanent hair color as often as, yes, I mean, normally I would go every 4 weeks, like clockwork, to color my hair. Mm-hmm. This would allow me to stretch it that 5th week or even that 6 weeks. If you're on the road, if you're traveling, you have a last minute something that comes up. I know that I can color my gray roots and nobody will know. I mean, it looks like my hair is completely perfect until I get back to my hairdresser. But what that's also then allowed me is by stretching my time between appointments, that extra, if I go 5 weeks, that means that I can eliminate 2 permanent hair color appointments a year. If I can stretch at the 6th week, I eliminate 4 appointments a year. So not only do I save my hair, but I'm saving a lot of money, I'm saving time, and I'm not using all those harsh chemicals as often.
That is exactly the reason that this line of products that you have developed is so endearing to me, because I'm like you. I love having fine-looking hair, but I don't like spending all the extra money, and I don't like the damage that it does long-term. And so your products really keep me out of the chair for at least 1 more week, sometimes 2, depending on what my schedule is.
Correct. Well,
so I really appreciate that, Joan.
Great. Well, that was the mission. So that
there you
is exactly
go.
what it was. Yes, that was exactly what I wanted to do.
So TouchBack was your first product then?
Well, the first product was ColorMark because I was having a lot of trouble getting the formula to come through the body of a magic marker, because there were no components. I don't want to get too technical, but inside a magic marker, obviously, there's a reservoir that holds the ink if you were using it as a highlighter pen, and then you have the tip called a nib. And the hair dye was not flowing through, that I couldn't get it through. So the formula was great, so I put it in a bottle with a little sort of a lip gloss wand, and you could apply it, and it worked perfectly. But it took another 4 years of research to get the right components to get the marker to work. And so ColorMark came out in 2003, and the marker came out in 2009.
Wow.
And so it took a lot more time, and I'm doing this. I did that with a staff of 1. So it was just, I knew it was possible, but it just took time.
Yes, all these things that work and that are so brilliantly thought through take time. It's just you never have that overnight sensation that you're hoping for. I know from experience.
Well, I have to say I did have to drag my husband, who was a very well-known commercial architect. He was the chairman of the company in New York that built half the office buildings in New York.
Oh, my.
And he now is, designing packaging. Instead of designing buildings and floor plans, he designs packaging, products. He loves working on the marketing, so I had to pull him in. And he is now absolutely a big part of my team, and his retirement has long since gone as well. And we work together every day. Our desks are about 6 feet apart, and I don't know why we're still married, but we spend 24 hours a day together.
Well, that's kind of like it is with my partner as well. Because, but sometimes people say, "Oh, you really shouldn't do that," but sometimes necessity requires that somebody step up and volunteer to help you out, because when you're running a one-woman mega empire like you were, it would probably be helpful to have someone with your husband's capabilities giving you a big leg up or a hand up.
Well, he's such a brilliant designer. I mean, I would have.
And he's so darn cute too.
Yeah. It's anyway. It was a good. It's a great team, and we love working together. So it's been fun. And
don't you have some new products that are making their debut?
I do. That I came out with last year, a TouchBack shampoo, conditioner, and leave-in conditioner in 8 shades, and they match the same 8 shades of ColorMark and TouchBack, the marker. And what basically the total mission that I wanted to try to accomplish was that I knew that permanent hair color isn't really permanent, because your roots are growing all the time and visible in 2 weeks. And your hair color basically is fading every time you wash it or you're out in the sun. You're going to get a slight fade and a slight oxidation. And so in order to keep not just your roots looking good by covering the gray, I wanted to be able to keep the overall color looking fresher until you go back again to the hairdresser. And to do that, you need to boost your hair color very, very modestly with a shampoo and a conditioner that has added color in it. And again, using this brilliant hair chemist, we have a fantastic line of products, the shampoo and the conditioner, plus something that had never been done before, and that's a leave-in conditioner with color. Mm-hmm. And it is basically, you look at your hair in the morning, it's dry hair, you don't get into the shower, you put, it's applied, it's a microfoam, basically. I call it a microfoam. It's very tiny bubbles, and you put just sort of a golf ball size in your palm, and you spread it on your dry hair. You put a blow dryer on it for 30 seconds to dry it down, and you have just boosted your hair color without taking a shower, without processing without waiting 5 minutes, anything. You have instant hair color. You walk out the door, you haven't even gotten your hair wet. It's unbelievable. And
I love the sound of that, Joan, because it just was make you free for that day.
Yeah, well, and
not have to worry about your hair, the color of it, or how it looks.
Correct. And what's unusual about this formula, whereas TouchBack and ColorMark wash out with one shampoo, these products stay in for 3 shampoos. And so you will see an immediate color boost. I mean, if you use a leave-in conditioner, there is an immediate boost. I knew the redheads would be all over this because their color fades quickest. And even though there's a very small percentage of redheads in America, it's probably 5%, that's our strong, really, it's tied with our medium brown, which is always number one. But the light auburn, dark auburn, huge sellers because redheads can never keep the red in their hair.
And a lot of hair is wearing these red streaks these days, so that just makes sense. If you use the TouchBack Red, dark auburn on your roots, it just immediately would freshen that whole look.
Yes, well, it will not cover the gray in the same way the marker and ColorMark will, which is very specifically to be opaque on the gray. Mm-hmm. The shampoo and conditioner, one, because you're rinsing it out of your hair, will tone down the gray. So it'll take your white or your gray, and it will give it a sheer layer of color. So it will take the whiteness out, but it will not cover it. Mm-hmm. But it will take the rest of your hair color and brighten it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, for those people who just hearing us for the first time, where is the best place for them to purchase your products and to know more about all of this?
Okay, well, the full line of shampoos, conditioners, TouchBack, our bright hair colors, which I'll go into, and our new BrowMarker are all at Ulta. And Ulta has about 550 stores across America, so if you go online, there's a store locator button at the top, and hopefully there's one near everybody.
They have such a wonderful array of products in that store, so I'm going to run over there myself and just take a look.
I love that store, and they just opened in Santa Fe, so finally, and so I'm thrilled with that. So I figure if it's gotten to Santa Fe, it's got to be near every major city.
Exactly.
But that you'll be able to find everything there in all the shades, and then if you are adventuresome, we have the Streekers line, which is our 8 sort of vibrant shades in red, blue, green, yellow, orange, purple, and more. And those are all temporary colors, and again are completely different than any other temporary color on the market in that you can brush it without having to flake off. So it sort of looks like you've got permanent hair color in your hair, but it washes out with one shampoo.
And is that also at Ulta?
And that's at Ulta.
Good.
The only caveat with that one is that the lighter your hair, the brighter the color. So that if you have medium brown or darker, it won't show. It has to be on sort of a highlight or from light brown to blonde, it'll show up.
Otherwise, it would just probably absorb into your own color.
Yeah, it's not, because of the way the formulation is, it is like a hair color, and it has to be on a light base. But that's the only difference there. So on your lighter, even on your hair, Cynthia, if you have just slightly lighter areas, it'll show up in those areas.
And I do, and I love anything that is vibrant color in my hair.
Great fun. great fun. And I have to say, we're getting a lot of women, just totally gray-haired women, putting colored streaks in their hair, and it works fantastically on gray hair. So it's really quite amazing. It goes from, a 6-year-old to an 80-year-old is now wearing they're now wearing streakers because it's so mainstream to color your hair with these bright colors.
Yes, and I love bright colors. I think they look great on women.
I think
it
they're
just
fun.
adds a little bit of vibrancy to their look. Now, earlier today, you and I had a little conversation, and you were talking about something that you had read in the Wall Street Journal.
There is a fantastic, very interesting story, very apropos, in today's Wall Street Journal called...
I knew we were going to do this show together, so that's why.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
And it's called Are You Having an Old Hair Day? And it talks about Procter & Gamble and L'Oreal and Unilever all coming out with these products for aging hair because the population is aging. They're saying that there are 82 million people between the ages of 45 and 65. And I'm going to quote one of the senior scientists at P&G because I thought it was very interesting. It says, hair does, in fact, change as a person ages. Not only does it turn gray, but it becomes more brittle and fragile. It also gets thinner, the result of both a decrease in the number of active hair follicles and a narrowing of the diameter of each individual hair. And I know that I would say all of my friends, everybody complains about their hair thinning, feeling that really has happened, especially in the front. I don't know, you can start to see your scalp sometimes in the front because your hair is starting to thin down. But it goes on to say, sometime in the mid to late 40s, women notice that their hair is different but haven't necessarily made the connection with aging. Instead, women tend to think they're having more bad hair days than they used to. In addition, as they age, women are more likely to color their hair or use other chemical treatments which damage it further. And so that really is sort of the issue, is using all these chemical processes to either take out the frizz, to color your hair to cover gray, whatever it is, you're making your hair more dry and more brittle, and it's also getting thinner. So it definitely behooves people to start thinking about the number of things that they're doing to their hair and try to be as gentle as possible, and that includes not pulling it back into a tight ponytail, which can cause some breakage, and and not maybe ironing it as strongly or as often. Just being a little more kinder to your hair, and that includes not coloring it as often as maybe you would like to.
And that's where your products come in so brilliantly.
Yes, and that's where we feel we definitely can help women and men, because, can you believe, when I watch the news shows now, I think every man on television is dyeing their hair, every newscaster.
I agree.
It's so funny because every week they have a different color. They go from dark brown, and then you see it sort of oxidize, and it gets a sort of orange, and then it gets a little lighter, and then you can sort of start to see the gray around the edges, and then they dye their hair again. So.
Yes, and then the process starts again.
Right. So I think they would... Yeah,
well, having gray hair is probably one of the, I don't know, probably because I'm so vain, but it's probably like one of the worst things that could happen. Like, you have aging in all sorts of forms anyway, and then your hair starts getting gray.
I'm not going to let my hair go gray.
Me either. I will fight it to the day I die.
Yep. That to me is old.
Yeah.
For a woman to be totally gray, unless... all right, there's maybe 1% that look great, that have this beautiful white hair, silky, shiny, whatever, looks great, okay, but that's not most of us, and I just don't want to feel or look that way.
Yep, I can think of two people. One is a model that I interviewed. Her name is Cindy, I believe. She is beautiful, tall, willowy, silvery hair, and it just fits her. Yep. And then another girlfriend of mine has silver hair. It's so lovely. And guess what? It's thick. It hasn't even thinned at all.
Right.
So she has this shock of beautiful hair.
Yeah, if it's youthful gray hair, there's a way that it can look youthful, but there are not too many people that have it. And it's very funny because a woman that worked in the next office to me at Vogue started a couple of years ago a program called a website. I can't remember the exact words, but it's like looking great, going gray, or going gray, looking great. And it tells you how to grow out your hair color and still look good while you're growing it out. And she has these great get-togethers with, like 50 women that have grown out their hair, and they look beautiful. And but they dress beautifully. They're all wearing makeup. They don't look old, but they have let their hair go totally gray. And so she's helping women do that in the most sort of the nicest way possible, so that you look good while you're growing out your color. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, we talk quite frequently, and I send her product to her seminars, so the women that are doing that can hopefully, cover their roots while they're trying to let them totally grow out. And that's
it would be easier just to use the TouchBack and keep up your hair every.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, you end up having to sort of cut it all off.
Well, and then I think everything changes at that point. Your wardrobe has to change because your hair is now a completely different color than you.
And your makeup changes.
And your makeup changes, and just I don't know how you could get used to looking in the mirror and seeing that shock of white when you're accustomed to seeing a different color.
Yes, I agree.
And I just think that color makes you look youthful. I really do.
I totally agree.
Yes. Well, let's see. So we've got some beauty shows coming up. You'll probably be hanging around at some of those. And I hope I get to see you at least Cosmoprof in July.
I will, yes. I always enjoy that. Vegas in July, you never leave the hotel. It's
never,
about 120 outside.
I know. You get there, like I drive in from L.A., I try to get there by 8:30 in the morning, and then I don't leave the hotel until 4 days later.
No, correct. You just go through the tunnels to the next
hotel.
Exactly.
Well, I do love that, though, actually. It's fun to see all the people that you've known and seen throughout the years and see them again in such a great setting.
Well, that's a particularly good show because they don't have blaring music going on all the time. If anybody has ever been to a true hair show,
it's loud.
Sort of an industry hair show, it is just brutally loud. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago just for the weekend for fun with some friends, and I went to the Alicia Keys concert.
Oh.
I was sitting under 36 speakers. I had my fingers in my ears. It was painful. I didn't understand how nobody in 15,000 seats had their fingers in their ears besides me. I felt really old. I had to leave after an hour. I thought I would be permanently damaged.
That is so funny.
Great.
Well, you know what? When you're accustomed to having more quiet in your life and then you're subjected to that loud, whatever it is, even talking or children, whatever, it can be very grating on your ears. And
I think iPods have ruined every young person's ears, so they probably weren't as affected. I don't know.
Yes, probably so. My son was a musician, so I can speak volumes about how the loudness can affect your everything.
Absolutely, but it was great fun.
Joan, our time is almost up. We are down to 2 minutes, and I just thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the Ageless Sisters and share with women your great story about how you have brought all these beauty products to women everywhere. And if they just go to Ulta and look for TouchBack, they'll see everything from your line.
Yes, they'll see everything. And we never talked about the brow product, but we have the only patented brow marker in the market. And the difference on that one, if anyone has thinning eyebrows, is that the formula bonds to the hair and to the skin, and it will not rub off. It will stay on all day. So if any women are undergoing chemo and have lost all their eyebrows, I made a shade called Blonde specifically for them so that it will give you a very natural look even if there's no hair. So take a look for that one as well. I think you'll like it.
Oh, that is so wonderful that you did that. And I actually had forgotten about that, but I knew that you had invented that wonderful product for them.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say all of the products are online, of course.
Yes.
And if you
just Google TouchBack,
TouchBack, they'll all come up. So
exactly.
You'll be able to find everything.
Exactly.
Well, in fact,
my dear friend,
the BrowMarker is going to be on The View tomorrow.
How wonderful.
Yeah,
Will you be on The View tomorrow, too?
No, I won't, but we're giving it to the audience, and the woman who does everybody's makeup on the show is a huge user of the Brow product, and so she is highlighting it tomorrow.
How wonderful. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on our show today.
You're welcome.
This is Cynthia Rowland from Facial Magic and Luscious Lips and the Ageless Sisters saying goodbye to everybody, and we'll see you next time with a very special guest, Dr. Eve A.G. So I look forward to seeing you again, Joan, in Las Vegas.
Thank
you.
Love talking
Bye-bye.
with you. Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Ageless Sisters. Tune in again next time for the most up-to-date beauty. You've been listening to the Ageless Sisters. Tune in again next time for the most up-to-date beauty. You've been listening to the Ageless Sisters.